Hello, I'm Pete, and the subject of this little video is an adjustable Burley dispenser, homemade, for the purpose of attracting a cloud of garfish, or also Tommy Ruff, here in South Australia. And I'll specify South Australia because I had a look on the internet, and I want to make it clear that no, this is not what we're talking about. This thing with all the teeth that appears to be somewhere in America, no, we're not interested in him. Our garfish is quite a friendly little chap. About as hangs over your hand. He's about this big. And to be quite specific about him, this is his proper name, just to be polite and address him correctly. We like to catch them when I talk about attracting them to the back of your boat. We call it getting a cloud of fish behind there. There's so many of them when it works properly, and you can catch them in numbers. And even though they're a very small fish, they're a lot of fun to catch. And filleted correctly, as in a butterfly fillet, they make a sizable morsel. And the real objective of the whole exercise, of course, is something to eat afterwards. Another bycatch, I suppose, or popular catch of fishing this way is called the Tommy Ruff. We call them Tommy Ruffs here, although they're correctly called the Australian herring, and they look like that. So the general idea is to put out a trail of burley. People have their own mixtures, or there are plenty that you can buy from fishing stores that already have tuna oil and things like that in them. And the idea is to release that burley from the back of the boat so that it goes away with the tide and attracts the fish up. Of course, once you've attracted the fish, there's two things that's important not to do. One is to let so much burley go that the fish follow it away from your boat, because then you can't catch them. And another thing is to overfeed them, so that they're so full of your burley that they just can't be bothered with your baits. Some of the accepted ways of releasing burley, and they all work to varying degrees. Get a bit of a bottle with a handle on it, poke some holes in it, put some burley in there, hang it on a rope. The water sloshes through and releases some burley. It works fine. That's perfectly good. Do that if you like. There are commercial burley boxes. Usually they look like this. Mostly people find that there's just too many holes. They let go too much, and so they get the old gaffer tape out and they start wrapping that up. In any case, whether it be this method or this method, you still find that once you commit, you've got X amount of burley going out, but you haven't got adjustability. So there is a version of this, which a very good friend of mine and my wife's found for me, which has a gadget inside that allows you to adjust. It has a certain amount of adjustability, but I think they're going off the market, and anyway, it's not satisfying because you haven't made it yourself. So, having thought about all this, I went back to the plumbing pipe as the way to go. I like to make things out of plumbing pipe, knife sheaths and various things. It's a very good adaptable material, and what I figured was we need something that would slide outside of a tube, and I decided to use 90mm tubing. So these are a joiner you can get from a plumbing store. They're actually very handy. This particular one's got 3 nice notches on it, which is helpful later for working out a third of the way around, and it slides nice and neatly around the pipe. So having obtained those two things, I got myself a cap end, and I also got another end which has a removable threaded lid. So having put all those things together, it transpires that having put your cap on the end, putting this in the middle and sliding this down, being difficult. Here's one I prepared earlier. Having set that down, you find that you can then cut your pipe off at that level, which gives you your length, and this of course is forcing me to jump ahead and show you the next couple of steps. But having got your pipe, the end that I first showed you, why is it doing that? They come like that. I find this bit superfluous, so I cut it off. So what we're looking at here is a cap end, the actual spacer in the middle with the threaded end, and then of course this screws on the end. Having arrived at that point, the idea is to divide this thing so that we have 3 cutouts. The idea there is to make sure that this area here is slightly bigger than this area here, so that as we turn it around, I'll show you that the holes we're going to put in here will be completely covered on their way around. So they're the component parts that you need. A piece of pipe, which you'll cut yourself later, an end cap, and then the threaded end with its actual lid. So that all boils me down to the end result. It's currently the as far as I've gotten with the whole idea. We have our threaded end, we have a piece of pipe in the middle, and then on the end we have our threaded end, this end, and our cap on that end. And in here I've drilled a series of holes, which as you'll see, and I'll bring it up more closely, as we turn the device we start to see a few holes, a few more holes, a few more holes, etc. Very much like a salt and pepper shaker, and as you go around you're finding that, you know, you've always got, because there are 3 sides, as the water's rushing past, you've always got one side with the water coming at it and one side letting water out, and it's entirely adjustable. So what you can do is open it up quite wide to attract a swarm of fish, and then bring it back just to give a trickle to keep them around so that you can work on them with your baits. Then I've put a nylon cord through the lid with a knot, which I'll burn to stop it coming undone, and the same here, and that way we can't lose our lid. And by tying a rope onto there, it'll hang thus in the direction of the water will be this way. It'll always be side onto the water and can't get like that, which would sort of negate the whole effect. And hopefully you'll be looking at a nice swarm of fish. An advantage that I quite like is to be able to bring it aboard when moving spots. Bring it aboard, just shut it off like that, no more holes. The water will drain out, but the burley will stay inside. Just put that in a bucket in the boat, arrive at the new spot, open him up to some holes, and over she goes. So that's a general idea. The parts aren't expensive. You know, the way you go about these details and the holes you work out according to your own preference. So there you go.